Levarme la moustache en la capucha. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki tacatiki. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento pasanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Sani levarme la moustache en la capucha.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today I'm not gonna do keys to the game today because I don't feel we're gonna win, but I do feel that there's an opportunity for the team to learn what it takes to actually be a winner and a successful franchise. I think that at this point, it's time for everybody in place to understand what this team is, where the failures are happening with this team, and why they're happening. I've always talked about the coaching being bad. And it's funny that now it seems like people are starting to realize that I was right. Sorry about this. It just got to a point where everybody was questioning me about, it's the players and all that type of stuff. And I said, no, this is a coaching thing. Because you can't always blame the players if they don't believe in what the coaches are telling them. So if the players are not believing in what the coaches are telling them, then it's coaching. But this is why this can be a very big learning game. The deal with this game is that there's a chance for everybody involved to get an idea of what it's like to compete at a very high level. The factor of seeing guys not in the wrong place or not giving up on plays. The fact that you're seeing guys squeak out wins or fight to the very end. Even though they've been doing that, they still have gotten themselves in situations where they're not really being the team that they need to be. So we have to actually analyze that. So let me start from the beginning. Let's talk about play calling. In regards to Scott Turner. Scott Turner will get the opportunity to actually see how you call plays for what people deemed a weak arm quarterback. Now, for a lot of you who don't know, Tom Brady is one of those guys that they talk about doesn't have the best arm strength. He's never had the best arm strength during his tenure in the NFL. But for some reason, there's always been plays and coaches he's dealt with that have always made the scheme easy for a guy like him. This will give Scott Turner an opportunity to really see how another offensive coordinator, might I add, in Byron Leftwich, schemes up routes and combinations and things like that to get his quarterback looking good. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's Tom Brady, but still, you're still talking about a guy who doesn't have the strongest arm. They talk about the same thing with Taylor Heinicke. Doesn't have the strongest arm. But guess what? If you scheme the offense in a manner that gets the ball out of his hands and gets the plays down the field, trust and believe, he's going to work out. So for Scott Turner, this is an opportunity to see how you scheme for what everybody deems a weak arm quarterback. Number two, Jack Del Rio will finally find out how you call defense in this NFL, in today's NFL, because I do feel that Jack Del Rio and his terms and ideas and terminology is outdated, because he does not see why it's important to play certain things a certain way, or why. Hell, let's talk about just the fact of William Jackson not being around and the defense looking better with him not being on the field. Those are things that matter the most. And I know that for a lot of us, we're just fans, but at the same time, we can see when something is wrong. And when we see something is wrong, then it needs to be rectified. This will give Jack Del Rio a prime opportunity to say, you know what, let's just go ahead and do what we need to do. Let's see about getting some blitzes in play. Let's see. Let me watch it how they scheme Antoine Whitfield Jr. to come down in the box and then bail out at the last minute. The same thing you could do with Cameron Curl. Let me watch what he does in regards to having a corner blitz when they weren't even expecting a corner to blitz. There are things that Jack Del Rio really needs to learn, especially when it comes to today's NFL. And because of that, even when it comes to, it's not only him, Ron Rivera as well, to have selected a fast linebacker who's big but basically still raw in the first round, that was a bad choice. Especially when you're talking about, when you could have had, you're talking about a guy that down the line may become something better. But we're talking about guys that are good now. You know, Nick Bolton is good now. And he's going to be good for a very long time. He was the perfect fit for this defense. And I know a lot of y'all are like, man, John, enough with Nick Bolton. I get it. But it's hard to watch these games and watch him do well, and even watch Joker to do well, and then look at Jamin and watch him not play as well as his draft order is. Because again, you're talking about these are two guys that came behind him and are outperforming him. So this game is an opportunity for Jack Del Rio to understand how to scheme in today's NFL when it comes to defense. You don't need the big linebacker. Sometimes that small linebacker, or what you might think would be undersized in the old NFL, you find out that that guy is actually the best player for today's NFL. Another thing that needs to happen that we're going to see is, I think this is also an opportunity for some of these wide receivers to look and see how they complement a number one guy. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because we may all say Mike Evans is the number one guy, but in actuality, it's Antonio Brown. Mike Evans perfectly complements Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown perfectly complements him. But so does all these other receivers as well. This now gives every receiver on Washington an opportunity to see how they can make themselves available and be compliments to Terry McLaurin. Because the problem that they're having is that teams are all locking in on Terry McLaurin because they feel they don't have to be threatened with everybody else. Now again, this goes back to Scott Turner learning how to call plays for what they feel is a weak arm quarterback. But again, these are elements that they need to learn as well. They need to see what they can do to basically relieve Terry of all the pressure he's getting by being double teamed. And in some cases, in some games, he was triple teamed. So that will give them the opportunity to see that. Jamin Davis, well, not just Jamin Davis, all of our linebackers will get a chance to see what a true linebacking core is really about. And what it takes for you as a core to basically be a complement to the defensive line. Now, they don't have, Tampa Bay has one of the best linebacking cores there is, hands down. But they complement that front defensive line so well that you could never know that there's times that some of them may be out of place, but that's very rare, very rare. And I think that this is one that, a game where these guys can really, really learn a lot from this team when it comes to the defensive playing. Another thing, same thing with the secondary. I think that there's an opportunity for the secondary to learn how you really play against when it comes to zone and things like that. So for me, even though I'm not giving any keys, because I feel that we won't win this game, because again, even though we're coming off of a bye, they're coming off of a bye as well. And because they're coming off of a bye as well, then there is an opportunity for them to come in there and basically hand us a solid butt whipping. And that is something that everybody has to understand and accept. So for that, this is not a game for me to be doing keys. This is something where everybody needs to learn what it takes to become not only a winner, but a Super Bowl winner. Now, for this last part, and I'm going to close the show out. This last part I have to do because there's a lot of revisionist history that is going on with us as a fan base. And I have to shut that down because it's getting too loud. There are things that come into play when it comes to drafting players and also developing those players. Now, for a lot of you, there's this talk of we shouldn't have taken Chase Young. We should have taken Justin Herbert. Now, I have to break all this down for you because I think that there's a lot of times that everybody thinks that you can just bring a guy in and he's just going to be what he is with another team. And that doesn't work. So I'm going to play the revisionist history game with a lot of you, just so I can kind of break things down so you guys can understand that the we should have taken Justin Herbert and not Chase Young talk can stop. First off, let's flip. Let's just say, okay, Washington takes Justin Herbert number 2 overall. Now remember, he wasn't a highly ranked quarterback when it came to this draft. If a lot of y'all remember, he was also behind Jacob Eason, who didn't do well in Indiana, with the Indianapolis Colts. So you got to understand that he wasn't even one of the highest ranking quarterbacks in that draft. Not only that, his skills regressed at every year that he played at Oregon. So he was not going to be a guy that everybody was thinking to take that high. Next, he landed in the perfect spot in San Diego. They had all the offensive weapons that he needed. And they had the one thing that made a complete difference. And that one thing was Pep Hamilton. For a lot of you, y'all know Pep Hamilton from the XFL when he was the head coach of the Defenders. But just so you guys understand, Pep Hamilton has a long, very long track record of developing quarterbacks. He developed Andrew Luck. Yes, he did develop Andrew Luck. He was the guy that was behind Josh McNown and his turnaround. When he was in Cleveland, he sat up there and had Robert Griffin III, Cody Kessler, and Josh McNown. Now, Robert Griffin got hurt, but at the same time, you saw him throwing more. Cody Kessler and Josh McNown, prior to being around Pep Hamilton, actually was having their most successful seasons. After being with Pep in Cleveland, they were having their most successful seasons. Pep Hamilton has been a guy that for a very long time has shown that he's able to develop a young quarterback. We don't have that here. Ken Zampese has nothing on his record in regards to developing a real quarterback, a real NFL quarterback. And a lot of people are going to sit up here and say, well, what about Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton doesn't count because Andy Dalton is still not what you would really consider an NFL level quality quarterback. He's just not. And because of that, Justin Herbert would not have worked here. Not only that, understand what Chase was coming to, what he was supposedly coming to. He was coming to a team and a coaching staff that was defensive rounded. Like everything about them was defense. Everything about them was defense. He was coming to a coordinator that was a former NFL linebacker that also had his own thing, that was a good defensive coordinator. That's what Chase Young was coming into. He was coming to a head coach also who specializes in the defense. That is what he was coming to. So in actuality, it would not have made sense for Justin Herbert to come here. Not only that, we still had Dwayne Haskins at the time. And like I said, it's good and it's acceptable to have this revisionist history, but let's just have it. Okay, Chase goes to Los Angeles with the Chargers, and Justin Herbert comes here. Do you know that Justin Herbert would be having the exact same issue and slump that Chase is having right now if he came here? Because understand this, we didn't have the coaches to develop a quarterback, because again, if they did, Dwayne Haskins would have been a better quarterback. If they did, we're talking about Kyle Allen would have been a better quarterback. Taylor Heineke would have been a better quarterback, not Alex Smith being the better quarterback. Not only that, you're talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick was struggling in this offense. The coaches to develop quarterbacks was not here. So understand that even though revisionist history is exciting, understand that guess what? For all of you who are down on Chase Young, you would be feeling the exact same way about Justin Herbert. Because why? The coaching would not have been here to develop a quarterback that looks the way he does with the Chargers. This has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.